Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, MBC Lifestyles Diary. So we left Barcelona and now we're in Paris. In French there's an expression, pour être belle, il faut souffrir. To be beautiful one must suffer, meaning the tweezing, the waxing, the dyeing of the hair, all the things women do to look beautiful. Why did this expression come to mind? Because that's the way I feel about location. Sometimes to get a really good location in Paris, one must suffer, and the suffering translates into a smaller room. When we were planning this trip, we were looking at a transatlantic as being a wonderful way, a relaxing way to travel across to Europe. And it was. And we landed in Barcelona. And Barcelona always gives a big bang for the buck. Every time I've stayed in Barcelona, I've loved the hotels because they're so spacious and we're lucky to find it centrally located to everything that we want to do. This last time, the Corner Hotel was really wonderful. Spacious, modern. It was a destination in the neighborhood all on its own. Thursday night, they had live music in the lobby. Good food, good breakfast. And of course, we always chose hotels with the breakfast package included. Well worth it. And then I had to transition to coming to Paris. And the thing is, when we were planning the trip, everything was calm in Paris. And suddenly Macron decided that he was going to raise the retirement age and made the French people crazy. So there were strikes, there were protests. So we didn't know what we were going to find when we came here. And everybody that was traveling to Paris was a little worried. And we decided to take the rail, this high-speed rail from Barcelona to Paris so that we could at least see a bit of the countryside. Boarding in Barcelona was very organized, but I'm glad we got there early because it is a bit confusing with the crowds and how you read the board to get to your train. But let's say our hotel was like 10 minutes away from the station via cab, which made it desirable. When we got there, we had purchased first-class tickets, which was nice. And, you know, we boarded. The seats were very comfortable. And we did get to see the countryside. We saw parts of Spain, and then it announced when we crossed the border into France. So yes, you see the towns, and you see the further away you are from Paris, kind of like the less affluent, but the towns varied. You know, you saw industrial, you saw farm towns, you saw some farms which were more prosperous than others, you saw lavender fields, but I eventually fell asleep. It was a comfortable ride. And I woke up to find myself in Paris. Getting off the train in Paris was a little more chaotic. And for some reason, all the trains came in at the same time, and all the passengers were arriving to board those trains at the same time. So it was really a bottleneck. So everybody rushing off the trains, everybody trying to get onto the trains, and it made very slow going. And it was a little overwhelming to look at because you're wondering what's going on. Is this part of the strike? You know, because you're going with that anxiety. Finally, we made it outside. We found the taxi line. Like any big cities, there are independent drivers trying to get you to ride with them, but we took the taxi line, very fast and efficient, and we got into our taxi and gave our address, and the driver was very good. And then I started noticing that there was piles of trash everywhere. So what's going on? And it's a strike. It's a garbage strike because Macron raised the retirement age. And this is how the labor unions are responding. So I remember this happening in the 70s in New York. Paris is a big tourism spot, and of course everybody comes to eat that wonderful Parisian food. And it's not too appealing when you're driving by mounds of garbage. We arrived at our hotel, and let me give a little backstory to that. My husband chose this hotel because he's very much in love with the neighborhood. And this is a neighborhood that we used to rent an apartment in every time we came to Paris. And it's a neighborhood that has everything. Saint-Germain-des-Prés, wonderful restaurants. You're within walking distance of everything you want to see. You're by the Seine. Wonderful memories. But when I looked at the hotel he chose, I was like, oh gosh. This is the classic, independently owned Parisian hotel. And that's my code word for saying the rooms are going to be small. I'm leaving the grand, luxurious space of the corner hotel in Barcelona to come to a small, quaint Parisian hotel. So we have, of course, eaten at all the restaurants near here. The shopping is great. For instance, Isabelle Marant's, her boutique is right across the street from our hotel. Paul's, which is a chain bakery that the Parisians, scoff at, but hey, it's right there. Not that we need it, because the hotel provides a wonderful breakfast in a beautiful setting. So as we were walking in, it looks like a jewel box of a hotel. In New York, they would call it a boutique hotel. They have a sitting room, which is lovely, and where you have breakfast, there's a lovely dining room. We walked in, the check-in process was very nice. And of course, we go to the classic elevator, which can only hold one person and their luggage. We were on the 5th floor. So I went up first with our bags, sent the elevator down for my husband. He came up and we walked into our hotel room, and I sighed because, yes, it's small, it's tiny, folks. My husband was loving it. I don't know, I guess he's seeing it through rose-colored glasses. He picked it, he loved where we were. This is everything French, the way he imagines it to be. I don't know, maybe he just loves Paris. So he was just glad to be in his old stomping grounds. And we put our bags down, and I realized, okay, this is good for a short stint and being in the heart of everything that we love, and also the convenience of it. So we put our bags down and we went downstairs, and across the street was a restaurant that we loved, very good restaurant, and it hadn't opened yet, and most of the time you need a reservation, but we hit it at 5 to 7 just as it opened, and so they placed us by the bar, which was fine, and we proceeded to have such a good meal. And I'm always amazed. I'm like, how do they do it? The combinations, you're reading it and you're thinking, this sounds strange, but then it comes to you and it's so good, and you're having a wonderful glass of wine, and the wine is so delicious, and I'm like, this is why you come to Paris. And the only thing was, you're sitting in this environment, and people came. The minute it opened, the restaurant filled up really quickly, and you're looking around, and the streets are happening, and people are looking inside at the restaurant and going, they're so lucky they got a seat, or they made their reservations. And you felt the vitality and the joy, and and you stopped seeing the mounds of garbage or on the sidewalk. And this was right across the street from the hotel, so I understood my husband's choices. And we had a wonderful meal. We took a little stroll to see what had changed in our neighborhood. And I realized the vitality of this area is that you're about a 10-minute walk to the Latin Quarter, but you're not in the Latin Quarter. I don't like the Latin Quarter. It's fun if you're in your 20s, I guess, but that's not what I'm looking for. This is a little more adult, but meaning what? These kids are in their 30s. They're working. They have jobs. They can afford to eat at these expensive restaurants. But it is a nice spot. And then I was like, okay, I am in Paris. And then we came back to our hotel room, and the American in me is just like, it's so small. We could have chosen, one of the American brands or a bigger hotel in Paris, but the area is not as thriving. This is a destination area. We're in the 6e arrondissement. So we're close, we're within walking distance of Notre Dame. We're in walking distance of the Seine. We can walk everywhere, and a cab ride is a short cab ride to whatever site we want to see. So the hotel is very aware of American sensibilities and our love of space. So they really try to overcompensate in other ways. Service is very good. Breakfast was very good in a very pretty room. I woke up to the smell of fresh croissants being baked. Somebody comes and asks you what kind of coffee you would like. It was all pleasant, and I sat and I looked at the street, and it's the romantic version of Paris that I have, the picturesque buildings, sipping on a great cup of coffee with a wonderful croissant, planning out my day. As I said, everyone tries really hard, and they make the most of what they have and trying to make it very pretty and appealing. So, plus and minuses. Follow me on the adventure. We're on the final leg of our adventure. We're in Paris, getting ready to go to the airport to go to Iceland, Reykjavik. So the weather's been pretty mild. We came from the Caribbean where it was hot, meaning we flew into Miami, then we got on the boat, we did the transatlantic, we landed in Spain, we went to Malaga, Valencia, disembarked in Barcelona, where the weather was very pleasant, got on a train and went to Paris, where the temperature was like between 50 and high of 60. All very pleasant, nice to walk around. We visited some places for nostalgia and we went to some new places. Like finally I went to see the concierge, which was where Marie Antoinette was held as prisoner, historical. And it was the first castle built for the entity that is France. We visited the Luxemburg gardens out of nostalgia. We spent a lot of time in Saint-Germain-des-Prés because, you know, that's our spot. We went to Ile Saint-Louis, walked along the Seine, all the beautiful things that is Paris. And now we're on to a new spot, Iceland, that we've never been before. Join us on the adventure.